Welcome, everybody. This is Uncertainty, the book. We have brought all the illustrious editors together of our fine book created by the Gray Swan Guild and Cygnus Sprints. And we thought we'd have 2 months before we get this book out, we'd have a session between all of the 9 members that have really played an instrumental role in pulling this book together. We're calling this Inside the Author's Studio, and I think in terms of a theme around the book, it's great that we've all kind of let go of uncertainty for a while. The opposite isn't doubt. The opposite is hopefully an openness, a curiosity, a willingness to explore, and not necessarily choosing sides, but hopefully having some comfort with the learning and growth that we've seen, both in terms of all the stuff that went into this book. So I want to make sure that we go around and bring up the editors here. Aaron, you want to start us off?
Aaron Mikulski from Chicago, Illinois, author of the strategy chapter and editorial board member.
Hi, I'm Angie English. I'm the editor of chapter 5 related to sense-making systems, complexity, and liminal spaces.
Hi, my name is Basir Rayet, from Istanbul, Turkey, crisis management expert. And in this project, I'm part of the scanning and futures editor.
Hi, I'm Deb Dimoff in Toronto, Canada. I'm an editor and author and a major fangirl of the playbook, especially the leadership and innovation chapters where I worked hard.
Hey, I'm Gordon Withrow. I'm from Dublin, Ohio, and I've been pulling the whole of the book together, have pieces throughout, and been working largely with transformation area.
Hi, I'm Louise Mowbray, and I'm based between London and Johannesburg, and I'm on the editorial board and co-editor for both the leadership and transformation chapters.
Hi, I'm Nathan Gilliott. I'm outside Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm on the editorial board managing the technology chapter.
I'm Olga Howard. I live in Washington, D.C., and I am editor for the scanning chapter.
My name's Sean Moffat. I'm project sponsor for the book, but on this role, operating out of Toronto, I was the editor for the marketplace and discovery chapter. So thank you, editors. This will be a fine half hour spent with you. I thought maybe we could pivot to our project leader, our fearless project leader now, Gordon Withrow. Gordon, we could have written anything in the world, such talented people, 50 people coming together to write this thing, but we decided the topic uncertainty, which when I first heard it was just an incredible stroke of insight. I thought, who hasn't done this? But what's your thought in terms of the overall topic?
I think, Sean, that the term uncertainty is one that hasn't been claimed as a whole, really, and is representative of what's going on the last 30 years or so in our world that we all feel, but we seem to not be able to get a handle on. So everybody seems to micromanage all the things that are a result of uncertainty, but we're trying to put an umbrella around the whole thing and attack it for how to manage ourselves and manage our world around us in the time of uncertainty that we live in.
I love it. Well, I thought I'd ask just one really broad question for each one of our chapters, and then we'll eventually get into the individual chapters. I know we've intensively met over the last 6 months, I think less intensively over the last year, but now that we've nearly minted this book, I want to get some reflections and insights from some of our chapter leads in terms of what the experience has been like and what we've produced. So, Aaron, any thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. This playbook really supports Cygnus Sprints, which is the consulting arm of the Gray Swan Guild, and you'll learn more about that later. But it's a resource for the Cygnus Sprints principles to ensure really the consistent delivery of valuable sense-making consultancy and execution excellence. And it's also an operating manual for business leaders to help them navigate through uncertainty.
Thanks, Aaron. I have been so incredibly taken with this project because the power of the collective courage of people that from all over the world that want to wade into uncertainty. And for me, that's a powerful dynamic. Most of us really like to live our lives in certainty. It's a very comforting place. And this playbook has pulled together a cadre of courageous authors from all over the world that have that courage to push the limits of the status quo thinking. And I think that's a really unique thing. So I'm really excited about the playbook.
Just as in with.
Oh, sorry.
No, my bad. Sorry, my bad.
Deb Demoff, you know, I'm amazed and grateful that we all came together as a global circle of leaders. Feels like we are catalysts for all of you leaders out there that are driving big change in your own organization. So our dream is for you to experience this book as a big old groaning board buffet laden with kind of delicious brain food and topped with the very best tangible tools and techniques, from new business models to just-in-time strategies. So cheers and enjoy.
Yeah, you've got me hungry there, Deb. It's great. Great sentiments in terms of just some of the insights. I know, I'll admit, one of my pet peeves when you get into topics like the topic we've chosen, uncertainty, is people can either turn it into a rant or they can turn it into this crazy new world that could potentially exist but probably doesn't exist. We've taken a really practical route here and actually not only offered up the challenges and the opportunities of uncertainty, but also talking about it as a playbook for solutions. Each one of our contributions has some solution to it. Louise, any thoughts in terms of the orientation we've taken here?
Yeah, it's a good question, Sean. And I think we are absolutely at an inflection point at this moment in time. We know that we will experience more change across technology, all of the sciences, the environment, and society in the next 10 years than we have done in the last 100. And if we thought the last few years were fast and furious, I think we definitely need to strap ourselves in. But the key thing about this book is not to instill, a sense of terror or fear in people. It's to offer very insightful, practical ways of not only understanding the context that we're in, but the solutions that are being used in many different ways around the world across a bunch of really important topics. And I hope that when you read this book, it gives you that tangible, not only insight, but the tools to actually go out and do something a little bit different in your own environment.
Yeah, the tools are fantastic. And there are so many things we're covering in this book. The alternative to this book is probably a few bookshelves. If we're trying to do everything in depth, these are multiple careers we're spanning. So trying to bring it together, into something that you can pull off your shelf for a quick refresher on the specific thing you need today. If you want to go deep, we'll point you to some things. But the goal right now is to learn enough to do something practical, and save the in-depth for someone who's got time for that.
I know what's important is that word change, it is really what causes a lot of anxiety in folks. And so the practicality that Nathan is talking about is really important. This book helps us understand the way we're structured to think and how that influences how we use our creative powers to better navigate the direction towards our milestones. And so the ideas and the methods described are like the oars of a boat. You have an idea of the direction you want to go, but it really is in the way and the timing and the effort at which you move those oars that really help you make that progress. So it's a really important way to think about this as a book that you have on your bookshelf, and you've got a direction you got to go, but how do I get there? So this really helps.
Wow, such a powerful metaphor on oars. I'm going to pivot off that same metaphor, Olga, and it's not just one person in a boat on this one. There are 50 of us in the boat, all paddling in one direction. So maybe that's an awkward pivot to the next question I wanted to ask with Gord. But we've got about 50 authors when you include kind of the group that are in the book and some others that may join us in an online extension of the book. That is an incredible amount of people. I remember the first meeting we had, Gordon. I looked at this array of characters on Zoom and it was like, whoa, the potential of this group of people is amazing. what's been the thought in terms of trying to do a book collaboratively? Because there may be reasons why people choose to do it as a 1 or 2 person book. We were ambitious enough to bring 40 people underneath one roof into the book. What's been your impressions and takeaways from the experience?
Well, I think Nathan said it well. We have so many careers worth of insight and knowledge that we're able to collect from so many different people to cover something so broad and comprehensively at a basic level. But we've got this vast knowledge we're able to tap into. So that's been wonderful. And when we looked at the piece parts that are coming in, it's like if you were to have seen these on a LinkedIn feed or somewhere, they're the kinds of things you would have forwarded to your friends and said, hey, look at this really good write-up on this topic every time. So the ability to compile those and have them help us make sense of uncertainty is really powerful.
I think it is about empowerment. Gray Swan Guild empowered people during the crisis, early days of pandemic through sense making, attacking the problem, trying to create solutions, and so is this book. So it is leadership through service and service through leadership. I'm a crisis management professional, so usually crises are managed top down, but in this case, it is a flat organization or a flat structure in which people coherently contributed together and empowered and bettered themselves.
Wonderful. I love that. I thought each one of us has played yeoman's role in terms of just commandeering a chapter and making sure that the 4 to 6 authors in each one of these chapters makes it across the finish line with style and panache and a lot of substance. So I want to, first of all, thank all of you that were part of that experience. I also want to dip a little bit deeper into each one of our chapters and kind of spotlight kind of what an expectation that the reader might have in coming into our chapter. I was privileged enough to be in the state of writing the introductory chapter. It's still not wet yet. I've taken the approach of waiting to see everybody's material and seeing how that congeals. But really, the 3 points to that first chapter would be really not trying to crush uncertainty to the ground. If you look at most of the effective people in business or government or movements, it's all about trying to deal with and embrace uncertainty. I've talked about something called a super caffeinated world and how, yes, our world is quite different than even 40 years ago, many different facets. And it's just not about the decisions that you make, but it's also how people feel about those decisions. So I'll be exposing that a little bit. And then I'll also be summarizing each one of the chapters and providing just a really good 25,000 feet above the ground kind of view of what should people expect within those chapters in the introductory chapter. So looking forward to finishing that with all of your help. That's almost not only are we doing a video, but I'm doing an ask there too. So chapter 1 is on our most popular topic, leadership. Deb and Louise, you are mastering that one. Thoughts in terms of what readers should expect there?
Yeah, it's such a big, beautiful topic. I mean, leadership covers absolutely every single aspect of our lives. And without a doubt, leaders are feeling the pinch of both complexity and uncertainty in extraordinary ways. And yes, as you said, Sean, we're seeing the emergence of people are finding ways to make sense of what's going on and navigate this uncertainty. With increasing grace. I'm not quite sure how else to put it. The interesting thing about this chapter is that we bring you a range of different perspectives, and leadership, of course, is unbelievably individual. And we've seen examples of leaders across the ages who have grappled with change and uncertainty in completely different ways. So this is not a cookie cutter recipe for, do it this way and everything will be great, but rather it's insight into the perspectives and approaches and attitudes that bring about the type of change that we need today and actually allow us to move through certainly this context of uncertainty, which is unlikely to change, with a sense of a better sense of comfort, but also with the understanding that when we're leading, we need to take others with us. So ways and means of actually doing that. So it's definitely worth dipping into. Over to you, Deb.
Oh, Deb, you're muted.
All right, I wanted to give you a quick trailer. And so we're on silence in the audience first. And now for the real sound, quick trailer of the authors, because we did have an embarrassment of riches in this chapter, and rightly so. So you can look forward to a chapter article on the anticipatory attitude framework. How's that for something? And you'll be able to say it afterwards as well. That's all about overcoming our own allergic response to uncertainty, and that's by Graham Norris in Maidenhead, UK. Then you'll have Future Focused Leadership, Vital Lenses for the 21st Century Leaders by our own Louise Mowbray. Complexity Fitness for Leaders, How to Be Cool. So we all want to be cool, and we'll learn from Sonia Bletnall from Johannesburg, South Africa. Then Sense-Making Competency for Leaders, a deep dive on your own sense-making quotient. Thank you, Gordon Withrow, who's here with us as well, Ohio, US. Showing creativity in leadership in a different kind of way in changing your mind. And that's by Dennis Sherwood in Rutland, UK. And Guild Leadership, mixing up individual power with group vision for certainty alchemy. And that's by Moi. So all to say, we sincerely hope that by adding to your leadership resources, as we have with this chapter, we can lead ourselves and we can lead others to success throughout certainty or uncertainty.
I love it. Well, and then we move to chapter 2, which is certainly the tornado of change and uncertainty called technology. Nathan, you were brave and ambitious enough to tackle this one. What should leaders expect?
Uncertainty and change, clearly. Technology is, it's one of the most discussed topics in the world, really, and everyone out there has an opinion. Half the world is trying to explain what it means to the other half of the world, and there's something new every week. So we knew that we couldn't take on the current trends in a book form, because by the time we were halfway finished, the world would be on to the next set of problems. So instead, we're looking at technology as an enabler and also a contributor to the uncertainty itself. And we wanted to help people think about how to manage the uncertainty of technology itself. Trying for something that will still be useful by the time the book's out, by the time you finish reading the chapter, and not be overtaken by the morning's headlines. Thank you very much. So to do that, we have four pieces. Technology is one of the things that's leading to everything being connected, everybody being connected, everything being so much more visible in the world. And Kiran Dharmawardena has given us a section on social architecture, ways to think about how technology is driving this kind, or is one of the things driving the complexity of the world we live in today. The hot thing today, I've said we're not going to talk about the latest thing, but the latest thing is AI and intelligence. There's an interesting concept. And rather than talking about specific models, let's think about intelligence itself. And our neuroscientist, Sharina Rice, has given us a piece on intelligence and a model that we can apply to think about what that means, whether it's in a machine, in a person, or in anything else. What do we mean by that word? And Rob Tyree has written 2 pieces, keeping him busy. One on assembling your technology stack. We're kind of past the days where most places can buy all of their technology from one company and just run with it. So how do you do that? What do you need to think about for yourself, for your organization, for whatever it is you're building? How do you make it all make sense and all pull in the same direction, and preferably toward what you're trying to achieve? And finally, Rob's back with a piece on disinformation, how technology can be used against us, and what can we do to protect ourselves and our organizations and not be sucked into someone else's agenda. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a challenging chapter.
I love the fact, though, Nathan, that particularly with your chapter, that you've mentioned that our book is written in a way where it's just not this month's kind of flavor of the month, but something that 2-5 years out you might be able to still use. It's great. The first 3 chapters that we've talked about here are all kind of a set of 3 that kind of mash together leadership technology. And I had the advantage of editing Marketplace. And so we've got three contributions into that chapter. Asha Singh from Italy has written a piece on creativity and uncertainty, and the fact that play and experimentation and motivation and truth and a whole bunch of other things factor in to 2023 and beyond in terms of creating kind of new different things for the marketplace. Jackie Dion, and she's from Italy. Jackie Dion from British Columbia has written a great contribution. I think she was actually the first one to get hers in, so I'm going to give her special commendation there. She's written a something on communication is not a soft skill, and hopefully climbing out of this notion that this is one of these things that you can easily blame and not take credit for, and actually have a process, an actual process to get to things with intention. And so that's her piece. And I'm writing a 10-year kind of synopsis of a book that I wrote 10 years ago called Wikibrands, and updating it for this age and just what's changed and what's the same. So I'm looking forward to seeing that see the light of day again. Scanning and futures. It's a scanning chapter, but sometimes we attach futures to it just to make sure people are clear in terms of where that fits. This was a double act. Olga and Basir, you were editors on that chapter. Tell us what readers should expect.
That's right. And we had 4 amazing articles. We're very excited. I will start with Dr. David Cully's. He wrote Beyond Scenarios, The Limits of Uncertainty and Vectors of Imagination of a Blurred World. And here he has set the tone for what we must understand about how we look into the future and why that matters. The reader is going to be able to be convinced, really, that they have control of their future and that they must look into it.
Oh, muted, Basir.
Gina Clifford from the greater Tampa Bay area in the United States wrote the article, Why the C-Suites Needs Design Fiction. Here she makes the case that the design fiction is a concrete way to participate, imagine, or experience how trends that are emerging now might grow and shape future products and services, and she demonstrates how design fiction can be done.
Another awesome article, Dr. Charles Johnston from Seattle, Washington in the US. He wrote about creative systems theories, concept of cultural maturity. Now here he makes the case that because change is inherent in the life of human systems, successful scanning requires the keen sensitivity to timeliness, especially now that when changes are happening right now of a particularly fundamental sort.
And this chapter also presents a case study by Dr. Stephen Lichty from Nairobi, Kenya, a safari systems map for engaging with Africa's youth. This study illustrates the important role that trauma healing plays in increasing futures consciousness amongst marginalized groups.
I love it.
Everything we've talked about, Sean, is so part of our human experience. And, as human beings, we've been trying to make sense of our collective experience and find meaning in that. We have in the sense-making chapter, where we talk about complexity and the liminal spaces, we have 4 nationally recognized sense makers. And they help us make sense of what is unfolding around us. Slobodan Maltic explores the changes in our current world through the concepts of reductionist thinking. Meanwhile, and Slobodan is from Turkey. Meanwhile, Chuck Metz from North Carolina looks at the subtle complexities of culture through the lens of evolution and takes an evolutionary approach to sense making. Sonia Blignac looks at collective wayfinding and offers a ways finding framework. Sonia is from South Africa. She helps us navigate the inherent complexity of work, life, and business in today's complicated world. And finally, I offer a working mind map, a global framework of 5 global dynamics that help us make sense by examining the interconnectedness of complex systems and enable possible collaborations. I'm currently in Austin, Texas, but I'm moving to Corrales, New Mexico, so I'm not really sure where I am most of the time. But this chapter is going to be packed full of lots of wisdom related to making sense of our complex world.
I'm looking forward to it, and your chapter in and of itself personifies the global nature of what we pull together here. It's not only sense making, but it's also sense making from so many different parts of the planet. Looking forward to that. Going to talk about strategy, or chapter number 6 under strategy. Aaron, strategy in uncertainty. It's a crazy times when you're trying to be decisive, but also in uncertainty. What's your chapter all about?
So we titled the chapter Strategy in a World of Change, Uncertainty, and Shared Value. And it discusses really what strategy is, the new context for strategy, its development process, business architecture as a facilitator of change, the strategy execution process, and finally, the changing nature of leadership, which includes the importance of deep thinking, promoting a learning culture, adaptiveness to change, and the power of inspiration through storytelling. So there's some overlap with our first chapter, but really you don't have good strategy without good leadership. And those are the kind of the 4 components that will take us to the next level in the new world. The contributing authors include, besides myself, Wendy Keane from Norway, Jonathan Knowles from London, then Canada, and now living in Miami, Florida in the US. And really the key takeaway is that there's several calls to action in our chapter. The main one being, we just must be more adaptive and have an iterative approach to the strategy formation as well as its execution.
I love it. It's amazing, and certainly probably one of those things executives completely need in this time of murkiness right now, Aaron. Chapter 7 is all about innovation. We tend to talk a good game on innovation, sometimes not play a good game. Deb, what's it all about?
Point, Sean. So I guess the headlines for the innovation chapter are really about ideas, business models, future design, and innovation techniques. And we start with a really macro view on pivoting to new business models that Sean Moffat should be familiar with because he wrote it. And he laid out the corporate pivot, we call it, as a fundamental exercise to do 2 things well. One is capture value for your organization, and also to define how your operating system has to run differently to get it. So that'll be great. And then to a micro perspective, we call it Light the Innovation Fireworks, and that's by me. And we show you how to equip yourself and your teams and your organizational culture with innovation techniques that provide the chemistry, I guess, to propel your business at a very pragmatic every single day level. And then lastly, but not by any means least, tackling the infinite game of business, we call it, with a foundational, almost GPS, a futures design framework. So how do you use futures design, again, in a practical way with techniques? And we feature Anne Gorgie, who writes on this and speaks on this frequently. As a bonus, we will have a guest author of the non-human variety, because it's a thing, and that will be sure to surprise us.
Wow,
A different take on innovation.
You not only make me sound good, but you also provide a tease at the end. This is great. We should get you on the Uncertainty of the movie as well. I spearheaded Discovery chapter. I had 5 wonderful individuals that I was dealing with on that one. Certainly discovery is kind of I guess also a synonym for research, or kind of trying to identify different breakthroughs. We had Rick Gill from Parts Unknown, Alberta, doing something around a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. He based kind of sometimes it's an icebreaker scenario, but it's truly an unlocking tool for many different teams based on Rudyard Kipling's 6-man kind of principle. So I'm looking forward to exposing that to the world. O'Shawn Jefferson has given a well-reasoned and passionate argument for a systematic approach to research and analysis with 5 different benefits to it. Akash Das, who kind of collaborates with me on research in the Guild, has applied chaos theory to uncertainty and has combined that to hopefully build together some transformative insight. Of course, we need some Australians in our venture, so Doyle Buehler has happily joined us. He's taking Fritz Heider's balance theory and married it with some systems approach to actually do an article called Surpassing Uncertainty by Harnessing the Fulcrum with Balance Theory. So there's a bit of stuff there. My hope is Doyle brings his usual sense of clarity, but also he usually has a playful aspect to all of that. And then finally, I have produced, I think, an ambitious contribution in my own right. I've called it the Compendium and Compass, and it exposes the 15 parts of the world of trying to make decisions and trying to step back from that very first action that you take and go, which kind of one of these levers should I be pulling based on a number of different variables? So I'm really happy to be getting that part of my thing out. I know Gordon and Louise, you've got transformation. This is our kind of, I guess we'll call it our anchor person chapter. Gordon, what's it all about?
Yeah, Louise and I had the privilege of working with three terrific authors, leaders, speakers. Bud Taylor gave us a piece on the 4 forces of change, and Al Como, the power pull. And finally, Alex Brown has a piece about how getting it wrong turned out okay. And Louise and I then tied that together with a couple of bridge pieces that helped us narrow our focus and transformation on people and technology and approach it from those angles. So really just exactly what you'd expect from deep thinkers. I think it's going to be a great chapter to consume.
Wonderful. The conversation, actually, and finally we've got a closing chapter. Gordon, you're like me, you've got the other book on this chapter. I think you're still writing it. What should we expect there?
Yeah, you know, the conclusion is one that we've saved the authoring of for last, so we can stand back and see what we've compiled here and what our overall takeaways are. And it also gives us the opportunity to piece in any other pieces we may feel are gaps in what we do have. So far, it doesn't feel like there's going to be a lot there, but we have had so many other people who've helped us with this book, and we're offering to contribute. Timing wasn't always there. So what we're also doing is teeing up what we call our wild cards, where we can allow some of these other authors and speakers to be a bridge beyond the book into the way we continue to look at uncertainty as a group. So it'll basically link you into additional things beyond the book. So that's beyond the putting a bow on it. That's the thing you can look forward to there, which we'll talk more about as far as we look ahead, I think, in our conclusion here, Sean.
Yeah, we're coming up to the last part of this. I'd just love to put an exclamation mark, but just based on what I've heard already about the chapters, I'm excited. I'm like, this is the first time we're a globally dispersed crew. It's tough to get together sometimes. This is the first time we've had all of our heads in a room talking about our chapters, so it's great. The conversation does continue. There are 4 different types of pieces beyond just the book. We are trying to lift insight off the page and have it live in our real worlds. There's 4 things that we're trying to do here that extend the life and kind of the footprint of the book. Gordon, you want to talk about the idea of maybe something called Cygnus Publishing, working title that maybe we're not done yet in terms of this publishing thing?
Yeah, you know, for the Gray Swan Guild, for Cygnus Sprints, for this group of people who focused on this particular set of topics to get our first piece out, we recognize that it's likely we'll have many other pieces we will want to publish. So we're forming Cygnus Publishing as the publishing house of the Guild, and looking forward to what we can do further with this topic, this book, maybe either in annual updates, releases, second volumes, what have you, but also other publications we'll put out around uncertainty. But then everything else beyond that we're involved with in the Guild, and to illuminate some of what goes on with the Sprints group.
Wonderful. And Aaron, I know we've mentioned Cygnus Sprints a number of times, and we've alluded to it, although blushingly. You want to give kind of a good 20 seconds on what it's all about?
Sure. Cygnus Sprints is really the on-demand group of diverse experts from around the world who are here to guide and assist business leaders. So to help you in employing the elements in this playbook to help solve real business problems, and not just solve them, but solve them in an efficient manner.
I love it. And so this almost becomes our blueprint, I guess, for that group of people. I know we've got a podcast that will be about 60 episodes deep this year. We are mining the best of the world and going a little bit deeper than even their spoken word. We're going to spend 30 to 40 minutes with each one of them and actually kind of get behind some of their insights. So it's going to be all of our writers, all of our editors, and including some other special guests that we bring in. Looking forward to hatching that as we launch this book. And Deb, speaking of launch, you've got something to mention, I believe.
Ooh, yeah. So, there's 8 billion people in the world, and we would really, really like it if all of you would come and celebrate our launch with us. So please sign up for the launch. It's on Thursday, April the 20th. I'd say we all aspire to create an unforgettable kind of book birth that makes you as enthusiastic as we are about what the playbook is about, its impact on the world, and how it can help you.
I love it. Now, Gordon, I mentioned to you as our fearless project leader off the start. You also get the finish, at least in terms of some of our housekeeping. What's going on? Where can we find this book? When is it happening? Where can we get this great thing that we've talked about?
Well, as you heard, our launch party is the 20th of April. This presumes we'll be ready to take pre-orders 1st of April and be able to ship this thing 1st of May. So that's our timeline. And we have our moments, but we're looking pretty good. So look forward to that. You'll be able to pull up and get onto the wait list and or get the pre-orders in at grayswanguild.org/uncertainty. And we've got, if you would like more about Cygnus Sprints, that's also at grayswanguild.org/Cygnus Sprints. And also look for these podcasts. We've recorded the first one. And look forward to keep this conversation going beyond the book because we've got a lot to say and only so many words, pages, and dollars to spend to put it in print, even if it's digital.
Love it. I love it. It's going to be great when we actually see the material book in our hands. All right, let's put the topper on this cake, editors. Let's provide us, if we're graphing this story here, let's hit a high point here and go on for the exclamation mark. What's maybe a one sentence aspiration that we have for a book? We've put so much sweat equity into this. We'd love to make sure that it sees the light of day and it gets celebrated around the world. I'll start by saying, you know what? Some of us have mentioned, hey, I'd love that book to be on a bookshelf. You know what I would like this book to be? I'd love it to be on the corner of everybody's desk and it be dog-eared and coffee marked with how much use that people have used in their regular life. So I don't want to see this on a bookshelf. I want to see it on the corner of people's desks all around the world. Olga, tell me what you want to see out of this book.
I want not only that, but I hope that with all the reading that they do, that they are often inspired about a new way of thinking about possible futures.
And Nathan.
I don't care where you keep it. I want this to be something that taught you something and something you reach for when you want to refresh on one of the many topics that turn out to be valuable to you.
Louise?
Yeah, I guess I sort of want to say ditto on all the sentiments before, but in addition to this, what I'd very much like to, and I'd love to hear this back from people who've read it, is, in those moments where we just need a bit of space, we just need for the noise to quiet down and to find some sanity in the uncertainty, that this is the book that's picked up. And it actually provides that, fills the space in between with something that we can actually use practically in our day-to-day. So yeah, I'd love to hear how people get along with that.
I love it. Gordon?
Yeah, I think I could say ditto as well, but really we just hope that others find it as useful as we think it's going to be.
Deb?
So to all the champions of change out there that read this book, I hope that they finish it and they say in their minds, hey, I learned that, or I knew that, but it was good to have it confirmed, or just aha. So whether you had a tiny little brain tickle or a move the mountain moment, it doesn't matter if it affected you. I'd be thrilled, and especially if you passed it on and said, you guys should read this.
Amazing. Basir?
You don't have to hire several consultants or tens of consultants to sort out what you need to do. This book is more than enough. So it's as feasible and easily accessible as Cliff Notes, but it comes with a whole network of people that you'll continue a relationship.
I love it. Angie.
So most of my books are dog-eared and coffee-stained because those are two of my favorite things to do is read books and drink coffee. But, you know, today with our increased connectivity, that leads to increased complexity and uncertainty, and sense making within the last 10 or 15 years has become increasingly important and difficult. And so humans everywhere, including thought leaders that are here writing articles in this book and sense makers, we wrestle with that and we try to find a language to describe the current reality that we're trying to make sense out of. And this playbook, I think, will help with that dilemma. I think it will help us all put words to uncertainty and figure out some things that we can do to address it.
Such a powerful kind of springboard. Aaron?
Really to be of service to others. It'll be an interesting read for sure, but the hope is that people will use many of the practical suggestions, the approaches, the methods to improve themselves and also their organizations.
Amazing. So in celebrating and bringing this to a close, I just first of all want to thank all of you editors for the selflessness that you've given to this task. We say in the Guild sometimes that we love people that can think, but we also just love people that can think, do, and impact change. And I think you've shown that with great spades here. Once again, you can find all of what we're talking about at grayswanguild.org/uncertainty. We look forward to traveling through the fog of uncertainty with you, whether it's the book, which we hope you buy, the podcast, which we hope you listen to, Cygnus Sprints, which we hope you engage with us on, and our launch event, where we hope you'll join us in the celebration of this on April 20th. So on behalf of Gordon, our fearless project leader, the editors, the 50 people that have jumped into this crazy experiment called Uncertainty, and the 8,000 people that are part of our Gray Swan Guild that will hopefully embrace it when we hatch this thing, I want to thank all of you for listening, and we'll be seeing you in the future.